Leadership. Leadership. Coming off of yesterday's video, which was healing, I think leadership is a very good one to touch on next because, well, first it becomes let me fill my cup, you know, let me heal, let me break some quote unquote generational curses. And we talk about that. It sounds like a very fugazi, term. It's just up in the air. No one knows what it really means. The way I think of it is just learn patterns and behaviors that you may have learned from your parents, who learned from their parents, or you learn from some other family members or people that you look up to who are around you who behave in a certain way. And just for example, the past, say, behaviors that I had within relationships, and playing around doing this and that. The reason why I may have felt that that was okay is because I've seen it being, I've seen it being a thing. Now, my parents have been married almost my entire life. My sister and brother's entire lives, right? They've been married happily, still together, all that stuff. So there's a good example of the kind of resilience that it takes in order to like make relationships work. And I am witnessing a live example of making love work and what it really is, right? And so forever eternally grateful for that. However, there are also other examples like within my life where I see people who haven't defeated that demon of lust, and I see what that looks like, and that's something. So for me, it's a blessing to be able to see the contrast between the two things, to be able to see this, right, and what it takes to make that happen, and maybe that's what I want for myself. And I've lived this, juggling a bunch of women around, this, that, the third. And I've seen people, and I see people in my own life who are living consequences of that, either from the female perspective or from the male perspective. But I've seen this as something that exists, and I've seen the downsides of it, and I've experienced some of the downsides of it. Although I didn't have to do it for an extended period of time to see how bad it can be. And so I say all of this to say there are plenty of examples of either way that you want to live that are always constantly around you. So we're going to bring this back to leadership. Yeah? But what I want you to understand about leadership is that first and foremost, you have to be whole. Your cup has to be full, and then you could overflow into other people's cups. It's not a game of I'm going to not fill my own cup. It's not I'm going to neglect me in order to do for you, because that doesn't help either one of us. It is I am going to be selfish so that I may be selfless. And I believe in, say, an 80-20 split between selfishness and selflessness. 80% of your time should be used in the most selfish way possible to develop yourself to be your best self possible. Because when you can show up as that version of yourself, that version is a very, very useful person. And that's what I believe leadership is. It's just the most useful individual that is around. And that's how you become elevated. I said this a while back. You can go back in the videos, and you'll find it, which is when you're starting with your peers at shoulder level, the way to become a leader in that group is just to be the most useful person in that group. And I've lived that, I've personified that, and that's what has allowed me to be in the position that I'm in now. And this is not my first taste of leadership. I was captain of the third team after. So I rock up to rugby practice, tackies on, don't even have boots. And immediately, because they don't, I'm not a name at that time, and I wasn't really built, like a tank like I am now. So I wasn't a very muscular little kid. So I rock up and don't have a name for myself, whatever the case is. Chuck to fourth team, play my way up in tackies to third team. By first game, I'm captaining, and eventually go on to captain the second team, play first team. My point. Then I had resilience. I had the ability to push myself, and I wanted to kind of spread that energy. I wanted other people to also feel about this thing the way that I feel about this thing. And that was leadership to me at that time, is like a motivator. Like, if I'm your leader, I'm going to motivate you. My understanding of leadership has grown as I have grown. And that's why it was very important to touch on the healing and touch on those different things. Is there are living, breathing examples of many, many things around you. And among those things can be examples of leaders. And sometimes we misunderstand what leadership is. And so we go back to, those who exalt themselves will be humbled, those who humble themselves will be exalted. And if you humble yourself, you don't realize how much one can accomplish when one does not care who gets the credit. You don't realize how much you can get done when you're not concerned with being labeled in any way, shape, or form. And that's the attitude that I came in with now, versus back then. Although I would still pour into other people, it was predicated upon me being titled a certain way. And like, I did want to be captain, and me being captain was the thing that gave me that edge. But sometimes, which is something that happened, that I went up to second team, and then when I came back to the third team, say for example that same weekend, or the second team isn't playing that weekend, and I'm like, nah, because I had a really, really good relationship with the coach, whatever the case is, and I'm like, nah, I wanna hop on. They didn't give me my captaincy back, and not that didn't affect my game. My game wasn't affected, regardless, but in the way that I was affecting the team, stuff like that. At first, I wasn't giving my energy to the troops as much as I did, for a couple of reasons, including I didn't want to overstep the current captain. But okay, that's what I told myself, and that's what I told the people. But the truth was, I didn't want to. I wanted my energy to be missing very deliberately, so that I may, give my title back, etc. But then again, you'll be very surprised what you can accomplish. And I learned that I applied this eventually, but I didn't really internalize it and learn it, until much later on in life, which is, for example, now, that I kind of think in a way that it doesn't really matter who's getting credit for what. What matters more is that the thing is getting done. And this is something that I've said, maybe not, not in so many words, but it's something that I have said before in these videos, which is, it shouldn't matter to you who gets the credit, as long as the thing gets done. I've talked about leadership before. I've talked about, just working with people in general, and how the death of the ego, the emphasis on the thing that needs to get done getting done, is the more important thing, rather than it got done because of, you know I believe, as a leader, you need to be able to take criticism, be discredited, and still pour into other people. You need to be so full as a human being, and that's, again, going back to the healing thing. The reason why you want to take away your vices, and this is something that I heard, and it really, really bothered me the first time I heard about, wanting to get rid of your vices, wanting to be a viceless man. I'm wanting to be a man not controlled by anything, because I didn't think of my vices as controlling me. But as soon as I heard of this concept, and I started to actually look at my life and look at the way I was behaving as a result of, the vice that I had at that time, which again was this behavior, um, in my relationships, and having multiple relationships at the same time, all that stuff. And that was a learned behavior that and then we get into that quote unquote generational curse and stuff like that. And like, when you see one thing and you actually begin to understand it reveals many, many things that are affected by that thing to you. And so I say that to say, that is a part of it, that you have to kind of be the viceless man. You have to remove all things that don't serve your highest self, and it's much easier said than done. Trust me. I'm still not. I'm an infant in this journey, and I will forever think of myself. I pray to God, I forever think of myself as an infant in this journey, because when you the people with the most potential are the people who know they have the most to learn. And so, regardless of where you are in life, if you still believe that you have the most to learn, you could be the leader, you could be the captain, you can be the CEO, the founder, the CEO founder. You could be whatever the case is of this massive thing. And if you still feel like you're the person with the most to learn, you're still the person with the most potential in the organization. Isn't that insane? Isn't that a crazy concept? That even the most senior, most superior person in any room, if they feel that they have the most to learn, if they're the hungriest for knowledge, they still have the most potential because they have the most potential to realize. Whereas when you think you've arrived, from that day onward, you are slowly dying, you're stagnating, you're slowing down, and you're creaking, inching towards death. Versus when you are learning, you're flourishing, you're growing, you're evolving. That is life. That is living. A lack of doing so is the beginning of death. BlackBerry didn't go out of business because of Apple. BlackBerry went out of business because they lacked innovation, because they did not change. They refused the winds of change. The winds of change were blowing, and BlackBerry didn't open their sails. They instead continued to sail in the direction that they thought was best. And then they didn't recognize which way the world was moving. And that's what got them out of there in the end. And so to bring this back, the reason to remove the things that don't serve your highest self is so that you have a different sort of vision. You have a different clarity of mind. You see things and you tolerate a lot less when you know what you're doing and what's for you, and more importantly, what isn't. Jeff Bezos said that success is about avoiding mistakes, avoiding cataclysmic mistakes. You can make those tiny ones as long as you can correct them very quickly, and then you're back on the course, and then boom. Because it is at the end of the day like a concept that is scary to me. It frightens me. I swipe very quickly anytime this comes up on my feed, which is everything that you do counts. Everything that you do counts. Which is scary when you think about those mistakes and those times when you're not focused, and those times when you're not on the ball, when you're not on the money. It's scary when you think of those times, but the times when you are on the money and the times when you are on the ball, those times count too. But so do the times when you're not focused, and the times when you think of a concept like that, it's scary because we know that we are not perfect individuals, but the aim is not to be perfect. The aim is to continuously try and be better, because that is evolution, that is life, that is living, you know. And as a leader, if you want to be a leader, you have to be willing to be led. You have to realize that you're not the best person suited to lead in every situation. Um, yeah, stupid example. If if I'm Captain America, if I'm Iron Man, whatever the case is, and okay, if I'm Iron Man and we're heading into a military situation, Captain should lead. Captain America should lead. If I'm if I'm Captain America and we're heading into a technology folk like heavy scenario, Iron Man should lead. If it's to do with mythology, Thor should lead. If it's Do you get what I'm trying to say? And you have to be willing to do that, but also it means you have to be willing to learn, and you have to be willing to learn from everyone. And that's not just your friends. You have to be willing to learn from your enemy. You have to be willing to learn from your mistakes. You have to be especially willing to learn from other people's mistakes, and to look for the answers. The one thing billionaires have in common is a curiosity, a sort of genuine curiosity towards their craft, and a seeking of the truth is a second thing that they have in common. And I believe this is all a part of growth, but it's also all a part of leadership as well. And for me, to sum it all up, To be a great leader, you need to be full within yourself, um, and you need to be. The reason why that fullness is so important within oneself is to be void of insecurity, because due to the discipline that you have within yourself as a man, as a woman, due to that discipline, due to that very in tune, innate understanding of oneself, and I believe they say the root of man's problems stem from the fact that he cannot sit in a room by himself. And I think we need to be those people who can sit in a room by themselves and confront whatever evils, whatever demons may taunt us or haunt us. And I think it is in the confrontation of those things that we elevate to our highest selves. When we confront, when we know that we are the hero, we can be the hero that overcomes those things. I believe that puts us in a much better place. I believe you must heal, so that you must heal, you must close the leaks, you know, because those vices um, are leaks. Those vices are leaks. Those vices are leaks in your cup. Meaning, if you lacked them, if you didn't have those generational whatever, if you didn't have those things that lead you away from your purpose, if you didn't have those things that lead you away from your mission, if you didn't have those distractions, um, a great man once said, the most threatening thing, the most dangerous thing, the number one thing that threatens your progression and your becoming of this great person that you can be is not your competition, but it is the distractions that you insist on keeping in your life. If you didn't have those things, if you took those vices away, if you took those things away that pull you away from your purpose, then your cup is whole, it is closed. Versus if you insist on keeping them, then no matter how much you pour into that purpose, there will be that spot where you leak. There will always be that weakness, and you can pour, you can get better, and you can increase the pressure and this and that, but there will always be that hole, which means your cup will always keep going down, and you'll keep having to pour more and more and more. And get this, the more pressure that you put into pouring, the bigger that hole gets. Because the more pressure comes in here, the more you're going to break that, the more that's going to crack, the more that's going to leak. And so the solution is close the tap, you know, stop that for a second, not forever, but for a little while. You you shut the world out. You are with yourself in that room, and you have those scary conversations with yourself, and where you ask yourself, okay, what are we doing? Why are we doing that? Where did we learn that behavior? Does that behavior serve us? Okay, then why are we keeping it in our lives? You know, questions such as, how long are you going to avoid your capability? How long are you going to avoid what you're capable of doing to continue what you're comfortable doing? You know, like, you have to ask yourself such scary questions, and you have to sit there until you get an answer. And if sitting there is not enough, then it goes back to that being willing to be led. Then you look at the people who seem to have the answer to the questions that you have, and just listen. Just listen. Just hear what they have to say. And you may hear what they have to say and say, you know what, awesome, that's great, that's good for you. However, with my beliefs, that doesn't fit very well, and that's not exactly who I want to be. Who else seems to have the answer to this? Who else am I interested in hearing talk? You know? or who else is even talking about this? I may not be interested in hearing that person talk about anything else, but that one thing, I'm like, you know what? They have a fair point, and I take that and I add it to my collection of data, and through that I may find the answer. But I believe the important thing is to find those answers. You close those leaks, and then from there, it is about that selfishness. It is about pouring into your own cup first. It's on the plane where we're in an emergency. What do I do? I have to put my oxygen mask on first, because if I don't put my oxygen mask on, I cannot be of service. You know what I'm trying to say? And so when I have my oxygen mask on and I'm actually seeing clearly, then you're really gonna see the world, people, people you engage with. Um, you see the distractions they tend to keep in their lives, and when you have that oxygen mask on, the light that you see people in is so dramatically different, and you are much more careful about who you kind of let into your life. And this is not even coming from a place of you feel that you're better than it. It's not an I'm better than you thing, but it's a thing of I'm protecting my peace. It's like I love you. I don't like what you do, and I'm gonna release you with love. You know that becomes an element of it as well. But when you do have that very very clear, vivid vision, then it is from that place of clarity that you can make decisions that are best for the team. Whatever the context of the team may be in your particular case. But yeah, ultimately, it is about releasing everything that doesn't serve you. And when those things are released, then you can see the path with much more vivid clarity, and your tolerance for anything except for the things that do actually serve you long term. And yes, there is also room, it may actually also serve you to see your friends every once in a while. It may actually also serve you to look for your twin flame, for lack of a better term. I don't know why it's the first. I actually do know why. It's because Kevin Gates has this. What is the thing? He said he meditating, doing yoga to find his twin flame. Something that's funny. That's the funny terminology to me. Anyway, yeah, to find that person that you're gonna ride with. Like it may serve you to I'm not saying kiss the frogs, but talk to a couple of frogs so you can find your prince. Talk to a couple of frogs so you can find your princess. I don't know if it applies the other way, hence I said prince. Um, but yeah, it that may serve you as well. Like you're not any worse for having those conversations. You're not any worse for knowing that that's not your wife. You get what I'm trying to say? Or that's not your husband, whatever the case may be. I think the reason why I'm talking in such doubles in terms of the sex is because I found out that women actually watch my stuff, which was crazy to me. Because again, I said this yesterday as well. Me, in terms of myself, I would assume that the avatar who most closely relates to me would probably be like an African male. You know what I'm trying to say? But it seems that I seem to be like a relatable person, which is cool. I'm happy about that. I did grow up around like a lot of women, for like most of my super super young life, and so I suppose that may that may play into it as well, and into the emotional intelligence, etc., and the interesting holistic development of myself as a human being, because I'm hyper masculine, but I did grow up with that feminine edge around me, and I know the strength that comes with that, and that's a part of leadership as well. Is just being a sponge, being willing to learn, but above all else, it is to serve. Leadership is service. You know, um, to be the it's not the omnipotent king. But it's something like that, which is to be the king that is more concerned with the thing getting done than they are with the credit. You know, um, the one who does not see other people getting or having as a threat to them getting or having, um, who to be the one who seeks to elevate, the one who seeks to see people win, even if you're not winning at that time. Because ultimately, if you do keep your head down and if you do right by people, after having done right by yourself first, is very important, then success is a foregone conclusion. It's just a matter of time. And I believe life will teach you. I believe poverty will teach you all the lessons that it has to teach you, um, in order for you to get out of it. And it will keep teaching you those same lessons. That's the thing about it. Not just it will not just teach you everything you have to learn. It will keep teaching until you do learn. You know, and yeah, with the combination of all those things, constantly improving, constantly keeping your head down, constantly giving. I say this and I will continue to say it until the end of time. We get gifts just to give them to others anyway. And furthermore, it's not just we get gifts just to give them to others, but they're not our gifts to keep. You know, God gave us these gifts to give to the world. You know, it's not up to you whether you're selfish with it or not. It's not yours. It was just given to you to give to us. So please do us a favor. Focus and dedicate yourself so that we can experience that beautiful thing that is inside you. With all that being said, if you did in fact enjoy, please do hit that subscribe button. I keep pointing up there, but I don't edit that subscribe button in there. I should really get back to that. But do hit that subscribe button. Thank you for watching. I have been Sage, standing on business. Signing out.